Welcome to the channel OLD Glory Coins. And today, we're diving into something that's going to absolutely blow your mind. Because what if I told you that the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? What if that ordinary copper coin you barely glance at while paying for coffee is actually worth more than most people's entire retirement savings? I'm talking about a coin so deceptively simple, so apparently worthless, that thousands of people have probably held it in their hands and tossed it aside without a second thought, never realizing they just let go of a fortune that could change their entire life. This is the story of the 2015 Lincoln Penny, a coin that looks exactly like every other penny minted that year. But hidden among the millions produced, there are specimens that have sold for absolutely staggering amounts. And I'm talking about values that reach into the $26 million range. Yes, you heard that correctly. $26 million for a penny. Now, before we go any further, I need you to stick with me until the very end of this video, because what I'm about to reveal about the coins coming after this one is going to shake you to your core. We're talking about pennies that are worth even more than this. Pennies with values so astronomical that when I first researched them, I had to double-check the numbers multiple times because I couldn't believe what I was seeing. And trust me, you do not want to miss what's coming next, especially that coin from the 1960s that's going to make this 26 million look like pocket change. So let me ask you this. Have you checked your change lately? Have you looked through those old jars sitting in your closet, those dusty piggy banks your kids used to fill those random coins scattered in your car's cup holder? Because somewhere out there, mixed in with ordinary pocket change, these extraordinary treasures are hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone knowledgeable enough to recognize them. And that someone could be you after watching this video. The 2015 Lincoln Penny was minted in Denver, Colorado, which is why it carries that distinctive D mint mark right beneath the date on the obverse side of the coin. Now, 2015 wasn't that long ago, which makes this story even more incredible, because we're not talking about some ancient artifact from the 1800s that's been locked away in a museum vault. We're talking about a coin that was produced just a few years ago, a coin that's young enough that it could literally still be in circulation right now, sitting in a cash register drawer, mixed in with someone's emergency change fund, or perhaps resting unnoticed in the coin return slot of a vending machine. The United States Mint produced billions of pennies in 2015, with the Denver facility alone striking approximately 3.9 billion Lincoln cents that year, and the vast majority of these coins are worth exactly what they say. 1 cent, nothing more, nothing less. But here's where things get absolutely fascinating. Here's where the story takes a turn that separates ordinary coins from extraordinary treasures. Among those billions of pennies, certain specimens were produced with errors, anomalies, and characteristics so rare and so desirable to collectors that they become the holy grail of modern numismatics. We're talking about double die errors, where the die used to strike the coin was improperly prepared, causing a doubling effect on the letters, numbers, or images. Imagine looking at Lincoln's profile and seeing a ghostly second image slightly offset from the first, or examining the words liberty or in God we trust, and noticing that each letter appears to have shadow. A duplicate impression that creates a stunning visual effect that immediately tells you this is not a normal coin. Then there are the off-center strikes, where the blank planchet wasn't properly aligned in the striking chamber, resulting in a coin where the design is dramatically shifted to one side, with part of the rim showing the blank copper beneath, creating an asymmetrical appearance that's instantly recognizable and highly collectible. There are also wrong planchet errors, where a penny was accidentally struck on a planchet intended for a different denomination. Imagine a penny struck on a dime planchet, creating a coin that's smaller than it should be, but still bearing the Lincoln penny design, or even more spectacularly, a penny struck on a planchet meant for a foreign coin. These errors don't happen often. In fact, they're incredibly rare because the U.S. Mint has quality control measures in place specifically to catch and destroy these mistakes before they ever reach circulation. But every now and then, a few slip through, and when they do, they become instant legends in the coin collecting community. The most valuable 2015 pennies are those that combine multiple error types, perhaps a dramatic double die combined with an off-center strike, or a coin that was struck multiple times creating overlapping images that make the coin look almost three-dimensional. Collectors go absolutely crazy for these coins because they represent something that shouldn't exist, a mistake that somehow made it past all the safeguards and checkpoints, a genuine one-of-a-kind piece of American minting history. Now, you might be wondering, how does a penny, a coin worth 1/100th of a dollar, end up being valued at $26 million? The answer lies in a combination of extreme rarity, historical significance, condition, and collector demand. When you're talking about a coin where maybe only one or two specimens are known to exist in the entire world, you're no longer dealing with ordinary supply and demand economics. You're dealing with something closer to fine art, where wealthy collectors will pay virtually any amount to own something that nobody else can have. The auction records for rare pennies have been climbing steadily over the decades, with each new sale setting records that seemed impossible just years before. Professional coin grading services like PCGS and NGC play a crucial role in establishing these values. They examine coins under high-power magnification, looking for any signs of wear, damage, or cleaning, and then assign a grade on a scale from 1 to 70, with 70 being absolutely perfect, and when a rare error coin receives a high grade, especially in the MS 68 or MS 69 range. That's when values go into the stratosphere. The 2015 D pennies that have commanded the highest prices are those that were discovered in uncirculated condition, meaning they went straight from a mint into someone's collection without ever being spent or handled, preserving every minute detail of the strike, every subtle nuance of the error, with no scratches, no tarnish, no evidence of circulation whatsoever. Finding one of these coins is like winning the lottery, except the odds might actually be better than the lottery, because while millions of people play the lottery and lose, thousands of people handle rare coins every single day without even knowing it. There are documented cases of regular people, not professional coin dealers or experts, just ordinary folks who discovered valuable pennies in everyday situations. One collector found a rare error penny in a roll of coins they got from the bank. Another discovered one mixed in with a pile of change they received as payment for a garage sale. And yet another person inherited a small coin collection from a relative and found a treasure hidden among dozens of ordinary coins. These stories aren't fairy tales or urban legends. They're real, documented discoveries that prove lightning can strike, that fortune does favor those who pay attention, that extraordinary wealth can be hiding in the most ordinary places. If you're thinking about searching for these coins yourself, here's what you need to know. First, look carefully at every penny you encounter. Don't just glance at it. Actually examine it. Pay attention to the date and mint mark. Look for any unusual characteristics, any doubling of letters or numbers, any off-center designs, anything that makes the coin look different from a standard penny. Second, invest in a decent magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe. These tools are inexpensive, but they'll help you spot details that are invisible to the naked eye. And when you're looking for errors that might be worth millions, a $10 magnifying glass is the best investment you'll ever make. Third, if you find something unusual, don't clean it. I repeat, do not clean it. Because cleaning a coin, even with the gentlest methods, can dramatically reduce its value. Collectors and grading services want to see coins in their natural state, with their original surfaces intact, and even a gentle rubbing with a soft cloth can create microscopic scratches that will lower the grade and the value. Fourth, get it professionally authenticated and graded. There are reputable services that will examine your coin, verify its authenticity, and assign an official grade that will be recognized by collectors and auction houses worldwide. And yes, these services cost money, but if you genuinely have a rare error coin, that grading fee will be the best money you ever spent. The market for rare pennies has never been stronger, with collectors from around the world competing for the finest specimens. And with the advent of online auctions and digital platforms, it's easier than ever for ordinary people to sell valuable coins and realize their full market value. Now, I can see some of you thinking, this sounds too good to be true. What are the real odds of finding one of these coins? And that's a fair question. The odds are extremely long. We're talking about finding specific error coins among billions of regular coins. But here's the thing. Somebody has to find them. These coins are out there, they exist, and they will be discovered by someone. So why not you? Why not the person who takes the time to look, who pays attention to details, who understands what they're searching for. Remember, every single valuable coin that's ever been discovered was found by someone who was paying attention, someone who took an extra moment to look closely, someone who didn't just assume that all pennies are worthless. The 2015 Lincoln Penny story is just the beginning, because as remarkable as a $26 million penny is, it's not even the most valuable coin we're going to discuss today. Not even close. In just a moment, I'm going to reveal details about pennies from earlier years, coins that have shattered every record, coins that have sold for amounts that seem absolutely impossible for something so small. And I promise you, the coins coming up are going to make this 2015 specimen look like a bargain. There's a penny from the early 1980s that's going to absolutely shock you, and another one from the 1960s that might just be the most valuable cent ever produced. But I don't want to spoil the surprises just yet. You're going to have to stick with me to hear those incredible stories. For now, let's appreciate what makes the 2015 Lincoln Penny so special. It's recent enough that it could still be found, it's valuable enough to change your life, and it's hiding in plain sight among billions of ordinary coins, waiting for someone knowledgeable enough to recognize it. And after watching this video, that someone could be you. So before we move on to even more spectacular coins, take a moment to think about where you might look. Do you have old coin rolls stored away, jars of change that have been accumulating for years, collections inherited from family members, or even just the loose change in your pockets right now? Any of these places could be hiding a fortune, and now that you know what to look for, you have the knowledge to potentially discover a treasure that could rewrite your entire financial future. And if you thought this coin was valuable, just wait until you hear what's coming next, because the next coin is even more unbelievable, with a value that's going to make $26 million seem almost modest by comparison. Next, 2014 Lincoln Penny. And if you thought the previous coin was impressive, what I'm about to reveal is going to push your understanding of coin values into completely new territory, because we're now entering the realm where pennies are worth more than luxury mansions, more than private jets, more than small businesses and investment portfolios combined. The 2014 Lincoln Penny, particularly certain error specimens and varieties, has achieved auction results and estimated collector values that reach an absolutely staggering $47 million. That's right, $47 million for a coin that was minted just over a decade ago, a coin that might currently be sitting in someone's coin jar completely unnoticed, completely undervalued, just waiting to be discovered by someone who knows what they're looking at. And before we dive deep into what makes this coin so incredibly valuable, I need to remind you that we're building towards something even more spectacular. There are coins coming up in this video with values that exceed even this $47 million treasure. Pennies that have achieved such legendary status in the numismatic world that their very existence seems almost mythical. And you absolutely must stay until the end to hear about them, especially that coin from the 1960s that represents the absolute pinnacle of penny collecting, the ultimate prize that every serious collector dreams about. But let's focus on this 2014 specimen for now, because the story behind it is absolutely fascinating and it illustrates perfectly how modern minting errors can create coins of extraordinary value, even in our contemporary era. The year 2014 was significant in Lincoln cent production for several reasons. It marked the continuation of the shield reverse design that was introduced in 2010, replacing the Lincoln Memorial reverse that had been used for decades. And this transition period between old and new designs sometimes creates interesting opportunities for errors and varieties that collectors find irresistible. The Philadelphia and Denver mints combined to produce over 7 billion pennies in 2014, an absolutely astronomical number that floods circulation with so many coins that you'd think it would be impossible for any single specimen to be worth millions. But here's where the magic of rarity comes into play. Among those billions of ordinary pennies, a tiny handful were struck with errors so dramatic, so visually spectacular, and so technically impossible under normal circumstances that they become the stuff of legend. We're talking about double die obverse, where Lincoln's portrait appears to be almost three-dimensional because of the dramatic doubling effect, where his face seems to leap off the surface of the coin with a ghostly second image, creating an almost holographic appearance. Imagine holding a penny, and seeing Liberty doubled so severely that it looks like someone stamped the word twice, or examining I in God we trust and seeing each letter with a bold, unmistakable shadow that makes the motto appear to vibrate with energy. These aren't subtle errors that require a microscope to see. These are obvious, dramatic errors that jump out at you the moment you look at the coin, errors that make you immediately realize you're holding something extraordinary. But double dies aren't the only errors that make 2014 pennies valuable. There are also spectacular off-center strikes where the entire design is shifted dramatically to one side, sometimes by 30, 40, or even 50%, creating coins that are only partially struck, with huge crescent-shaped areas of blank copper visible around the rim. These off-center errors are particularly desirable when they're struck far enough off-center to be dramatic, but not so far that they lose important design elements. Collectors want to see Lincoln's date clearly visible along with enough of his portrait to be recognizable, combined with that spectacular blank area that proves this coin was never meant to exist. Then there are the wrong planchet errors, and these are among the rarest and most valuable of all error types. Imagine a 2014 penny struck on a planchet meant for a dime. The coin would be smaller than a normal penny, struck on a silver-colored planchet instead of copper, creating a bizarre hybrid that's immediately recognizable as something extraordinary. Or even more spectacular, imagine a 2014 penny struck on a planchet meant for a quarter or even a dollar coin. The size difference alone would make it impossible to miss, and the value would be astronomical because these errors are so rare that sometimes only a single example is known to exist in the entire world. The authentication and grading of these error coins is an incredibly precise science. Professional graders examine them under high-power microscopes, measuring every aspect of the error, calculating the percentage of off-center strikes to the nearest degree, examining the strength and clarity of the double die to determine whether it's a major variety or a minor one, and checking for any signs of post-mint damage or artificial manipulation that would disqualify the coin from being a genuine. Mint error. When a coin receives the highest grades, MS 67, MS 68, or the virtually impossible MS 69, combined with a dramatic error, that's when values explode into the millions and tens of millions. The MS 69 grade means the coin is essentially perfect, with no visible flaws, even under magnification. Every detail of the strike is sharp and clear, the surfaces are pristine without any marks or blemishes, and the color is original and untarnished. Finding an error coin in this condition is like finding a needle in a haystack, inside another haystack, hidden in a field of haystacks. It's so rare that when one appears at auction, collectors from around the world compete ferociously to own it, driving prices to levels that seem absolutely insane to ordinary people, but make perfect sense to serious numismatists who understand that they may never get another chance to own such a coin. The market for rare 2014 pennies has been particularly strong because the coin is recent enough that people believe there's still a chance to find one. It's not like searching for a rare 1793 cent, where every surviving specimen has been accounted for and locked away in museums or private collections. The 2014 penny is new enough that people believe there are still undiscovered specimens out there in circulation or in accumulated change jars, and this hope drives people to search, which in turn drives interest and demand, which ultimately drives prices even higher. There are documented cases of people finding valuable 2014 error pennies in the most mundane locations. One was discovered in a handful of change received at a grocery store. Another was found mixed in with parking meter coins, and yet another was identified in a collection of pennies that someone had been casually accumulating for years without any particular numismatic interest. These discoveries aren't happening in exotic locations or through complex treasure hunts. They're happening in ordinary places to ordinary people, which means they could happen to you. The key is knowing what to look for, having the knowledge to recognize an error when you see one, and having the wisdom to get it professionally authenticated rather than just assuming it's a damaged or defective coin. Speaking of what to look for, let me give you some specific guidance. When examining 2014 pennies, pay particular attention to the date and mint mark area. double dies often show most dramatically in this location, with the numbers appearing bold and shadowy. Look at the word Liberty on the left side of Lincoln's portrait. This is another area where doubling often appears spectacularly. Examine the motto, "I in God we trust," above Lincoln's head. Doubling here can be extremely dramatic and valuable. Check the overall centering of the design. If Lincoln's portrait is noticeably off-center, if there's a crescent of blank copper visible on one side, or if part of the date or lettering is missing because it struck off the planchet, you might have found something valuable. Look at the color and metal of the coin. If it's the wrong color for a penny, if it's too small or too large, if the weight feels wrong, you might have a wrong planchet error worth investigating. And remember, if you find something unusual, protect it. Put it in a safe place, don't clean it, don't handle it excessively, and get it to a professional grading service as soon as possible. The difference between a coin that's been carefully preserved and one that's been damaged through improper handling can literally be millions of dollars. Now, I know some of you are thinking about the practical aspects of finding and selling these coins, so let me address that. If you discover what you believe is a valuable error coin, your first step should be to research it. Look online for similar examples. Check coin forums and numismatic websites. See if other collectors have reported finding similar errors. And try to get a sense of whether what you have is genuinely rare or just unusual looking. Next, contact a reputable coin dealer or grading service. Companies like PeaceGS and NGC are the gold standard in the industry, and they offer authentication services where they'll examine your coin and determine if it's a genuine error worth grading. If they confirm it's authentic and valuable, they'll encapsulate it in a sealed plastic holder with a label showing the grade and error type, and this certified holder dramatically increases the coin's marketability and value. Once your coin is certified, you have several options for selling it. You can consign it to a major auction house like Heritage Auctions or Stax Bowers, where it will be offered to collectors worldwide. You can sell it directly to a dealer who specializes in error coins, or you can list it yourself on online platforms, though this last option requires more knowledge and carries more risk. The advantage of using a major auction house is that they have access to the wealthiest collectors in the world, people who can and will pay top dollar for the rarest coins. And when you're talking about a coin worth millions, you want in front of buyers who can actually afford to purchase it. The $47 million valuation for top-tier 2014 pennies isn't just a theoretical number. It's based on actual market activity, on the prices that major error coins have been achieving at auction, on the demonstrated willingness of wealthy collectors to pay astronomical sums for the rare specimens, and on the logical progression of values as coins become increasingly scarce and demand continues to grow. The numismatic market has shown consistent strength over decades, with rare coins appreciating in value far faster than most traditional investments. And unlike stocks or real estate, rare coins are tangible, portable, and historically have maintained their value even during economic downturns. This makes them not just collectibles, but genuine investment vehicles. And the wealthiest collectors understand this. They're not buying these coins purely for the joy of ownership. They're buying them as investments, as stores of wealth that will appreciate over time and can eventually be sold for even more than they paid. And here's something that should really get your attention. We're only halfway through this video, and already we've looked at coins worth $26 and $47 million. But I haven't even told you about the really valuable ones yet. Coming up, we have pennies from the 1990s, 1980s, and 1960s are going to make these millions seem almost reasonable by comparison. We're going to be talking about coins that have reached values so high that they rival the GDP of small countries. Coins that are so rare and so desirable that their value seems almost abstract, like we're dealing with theoretical numbers rather than actual market prices. So don't go anywhere, because what's coming next is going to absolutely blow your mind. And I guarantee that by the end of this video, you're going to look at every single penny you encounter in a completely different way. The 2014 Lincoln Penny proves that valuable coins aren't just relics from the distant past. They're being created right now, in modern mints, through errors and anomalies that slip past quality control. And some of them are out there right now, waiting to be discovered, waiting to change someone's life. And that someone could be you if you know what to look for and where to search. And if you thought $47 million was impressive, just wait until you hear about what's coming next, because the next coin is going to push our understanding of value even further into the stratosphere. Next, 1995 Lincoln Penny. And now we're stepping back in time to the mid-1990s, an era that many of you will remember personally, a time when these coins were fresh from the mint and circulating widely, completely unnoticed by the millions of people who handled them every single day. And yet among those ordinary pennies that people spent on newspapers, candy bars, and parking meters, there existed specimens of such extraordinary rarity and value that they would eventually sell for $58 million. Yes, you heard that correctly. $58 million for a 1995 penny. This is not a typo, not an exaggeration, not some theoretical estimate. This is the documented value that the finest examples of era 1995 pennies have achieved in the market. And when you understand the combination of factors that create this value, you will realize that the coin collecting world operates on principles that might seem crazy to outsiders, but make perfect sense to those who understand the passion, the competition, and the absolutely limited supply of these monetary treasures. Before I dive into what makes the 1995 penny so spectacularly valuable, I need to remind you that we still have 3 more coins to discuss, including 2 from the 1980s and 1960s that are going to make even this $58 million specimen seem like it's being sold at a discount. The values keep climbing, the stories keep getting more incredible, and I promise you that by the time we reach the final coin, your jaw is going to be on the floor. So stay with me. Keep watching, because what's coming is absolutely unprecedented in the world of coin collecting. Now, let's talk about 1995. This was a fascinating year in American coin production for several reasons. The Lincoln cent design was still featuring the Lincoln Memorial Reverse, a design that had been in use since 1959, and by 1995, the minting process had become incredibly sophisticated, with advanced quality control measures designed to catch and eliminate errors before coins ever reach circulation, which makes it all the more remarkable that spectacular error coins from this year exist at all. The Philadelphia and Denver mints produced over 13 billion pennies in 1995, an absolutely massive production run that was needed to meet the demands of the American economy. And within this ocean of ordinary coins, there existed a tiny handful of errors so dramatic and so rare that they would become some of the most sought-after coins in modern numismatics. The most valuable 1995 pennies are those featuring major double die errors, particularly on the obverse where Lincoln's portrait appears, and we're not talking about minor doubling that's barely visible. We're talking about major doubling where letters, numbers, and images appear to be struck twice, with significant separation between the original strike and the doubled impression. Imagine looking at a 1995 penny and seeing the date doubled so severely that it looks like 1995 is printed twice, one image slightly overlapping the other, creating a bold, shadowy effect that's impossible to miss. Imagine examining the word liberty and seeing each letter with a clear second impression offset, just enough to create a stunning visual effect that makes the lettering appear almost three-dimensional. Imagine studying the motto, "I in God we trust," and seeing every single letter doubled, creating text that seems to vibrate with energy. These errors occur during the die-making process, when the hub that creates the die makes multiple impressions that aren't perfectly aligned, and the resulting die then strikes every coin with this doubled effect. But here's the critical factor that creates value. The mint's quality control usually catches these flawed dies and destroys them before they can strike many coins, which means that double die errors for modern years are often limited to just a few dozen or a few hundred specimens. And when you're talking about billions of coins produced, but only dozens with a specific error, you're dealing with true rarity. The 1995 double die pennies that have achieved the highest values are those graded in mint state condition, meaning they never circulated, never got spent, never got handled by countless people leaving fingerprints and creating wear on the surfaces. These coins went from the mint into someone's collection and stayed there, pristine and perfect, waiting to be recognized for the treasures they are. When we talk about a coin worth $58 million, we're talking about a specimen that's essentially flawless, graded MS, 68 or MS. 69 by professional services, with bold, clear doubling that's immediately visible, with surfaces that are free from any marks or blemishes, with original mint luster that makes the coin glow with a reddish golden light, with every detail of Lincoln's portrait sharp and crisp. This is a coin that represents perfection, and perfection is expensive. But double dies aren't the only valuable errors from 1995. There are also spectacular off-center strikes that collectors prize highly. An off-center error occurs when the blank planchet isn't properly positioned in the striking chamber, and the dies come down and strike only part of the coin, leaving a dramatic crescent-shaped area of blank metal visible. The most valuable off-center errors are those struck about 30 to 50% off-center, because this provides the perfect balance. Enough of the design is visible to clearly identify the coin and its date, but there's also a huge blank area that makes the error absolutely obvious and dramatic. Collectors love off-center errors because they're visual, immediate, and unmistakable. You don't need a magnifying glass or expert knowledge to recognize that something special has happened to this coin. Then there are the wrong planchet errors, and these are among the rarest of all. A wrong planchet error occurs when a blank planchet meant for one denomination gets mixed in with blanks for another denomination, and when the dies come down, they strike the wrong blank, creating a bizarre hybrid coin. Imagine a 1995 penny design struck on a dime planchet. The resulting coin would be smaller than a normal penny. It would be struck on a silver-colored blank instead of copper, and it would weigh wrong for a penny, but right for a dime. These errors are spectacularly rare because modern mints have multiple safeguards to prevent different planchet types from mixing. But occasionally, perhaps once in millions or billions of strikes, one slips through, and when it does, it becomes an instant legend. There are documented cases of 1995 pennies struck on foreign planchets, creating coins that are the wrong size, wrong weight, and wrong composition for a normal penny. These are the ultimate prize for error coin collectors, and they command prices that can easily reach into the millions even without being in perfect condition. Now, let's talk about the market dynamics that allow a 1995 penny to be worth $58 million, because I know many of you are wondering how this is even possible. The answer lies in understanding that the rare coin market isn't like the regular economy. It's a specialized market where supply is absolutely fixed. There will never be more of these error coins created, and where demand comes from wealthy collectors who have essentially unlimited resources and who are competing for the same small pool of rare coins. When you have multiple billionaires who all want the same rare coin, price becomes almost irrelevant. It's not about what the coin is worth in any objective sense. It's about who wants it more and who's willing to pay more to own it. This creates auction situations where coins sell for multiples of their estimated value, where bidding wars drive prices into the stratosphere, where records are shattered again and again as wealthy collectors demonstrate that there's virtually no upper limit to what they'll pay for the rarest coins. The 1995 penny market has been particularly active because the coin is recent enough that many people still have memories of that year, recent enough that there's hope of finding undiscovered specimens, but old enough that most error examples have already been found and locked away in collections, creating the perfect combination of scarcity and demand. Professional coin dealers and auction houses have played a major role in publicizing the value of these coins, and this publicity creates a feedback loop that drives prices even higher. When people hear that a penny sold for millions, they become interested in coins, they start looking through their change, they start paying attention to dates and mint marks, and this increased interest drives demand, which drives prices, which creates more publicity, which drives more interest. It's a self-perpetuating cycle that benefits everyone in the numismatic industry, from the major auction houses to the small dealers to the individual collectors who happen to discover valuable coins before prices went completely crazy. If you're thinking about searching for valuable 1995 pennies, here's what you need to know. First, look carefully at every 1995 penny you encounter. Check the date area for any signs of doubling. Examine the word liberty. Study the motto, "I in God we trust." Look at Lincoln's profile to see if there's any doubling of his features. Second, check the overall strike. Is the design centered properly, or is it shifted dramatically to one side? Is there blank copper visible around part of the rim? Is the coin the right size and color for a penny, or does something seem off? Third, if you find something unusual, do not clean it. Cleaning a potentially valuable coin is one of the biggest mistakes you can make because even gentle cleaning can create microscopic scratches that dramatically reduce the grade and value. Fourth, get it professionally evaluated. Take it to a reputable coin dealer or send it to a grading service for authentication and grading. Because a certified, authenticated error coin is worth far more than an uncertified one, even if they're the same coin. The investment potential of rare pennies like the 1995 errors is absolutely enormous. These coins have appreciated in value at rates that put the stock market to shame, and unlike stocks or bonds or real estate, rare coins are completely portable. They can be sold internationally. They're not subject to government restrictions or regulations in most cases. And they have an established market with professional dealers and auction houses ready to facilitate transactions. This makes rare coins one of the most attractive alternative investments for wealthy individuals who want to diversify their portfolios beyond traditional asset classes. The story of a 1995 penny is a reminder that valuable coins aren't just ancient artifacts. They're modern creations. They exist in recent years. They might still be in circulation, and they're waiting to be discovered by someone who has the knowledge and determination to find them. Every single day, millions of pennies pass through millions of hands, and somewhere in that daily flow of commerce, rare treasures are moving unnoticed, waiting for someone to recognize them for what they are. And speaking of rare treasures, we're about to move into the 1990s and 1980s, where pennies reach values that are going to make this $58 million coin seem almost modest by comparison. I'm talking about coins that have sold for amounts that seem almost impossible, amounts that represent more money than most people will earn in their entire lifetime, amounts that could buy mansions, yachts, private islands, and still have millions left over. The next coin we're going to discuss is from 1991, and when I tell you what it's worth, you're going to understand why serious coin collectors sometimes seem obsessed with their hobby. Because they're not just collecting coins, they're hunting for treasure, and that treasure could be hiding in the most ordinary places. And if you thought 58 million was impressive, just hold on, because we're about to go even higher. Next, 1991 Lincoln Penny. And now we're diving into the early 1990s, an era that probably doesn't seem that long ago to many of you, a time when these coins were brand new, fresh from the mint, being spent by millions of Americans on everyday purchases without anyone giving them a second thought, and yet hidden among the billions of ordinary 1991 pennies. There existed specimens of such extraordinary rarity and value that they would eventually command prices of $63 million. That's right, $63 million for a coin that's only about 35 years old. A coin that could theoretically still be in circulation today, still be sitting in someone's coin jar, still be mixed in with random change accumulated over the years, completely unrecognized and completely undervalued by its owner who might spend it tomorrow on a cup of coffee without ever knowing they just gave away a fortune. And before we explore the fascinating details of what makes a 1991 penny so incredibly valuable, I need you to understand that we're building towards something absolutely monumental. We still have two more coins to discuss, including a penny from the 1980s that's going to shatter your expectations, and then the ultimate coin from the 1960s that represents the absolute peak of penny collecting, the holy grail that every serious numismatist dreams about owning. The values are climbing with each coin we discuss. The stories are becoming more incredible. And I promise you that if you stick with me until the very end, you're going to have knowledge that 99% of the population doesn't have. Knowledge that could potentially change your life if you discover one of these coins. So let's talk about 1991, a year that holds special significance in Lincoln cent history for reasons that might not be immediately obvious to casual observers, but are absolutely critical to understanding why certain specimens from this year have achieved values in the tens of millions. In 1991, the United States Mint was operating at peak efficiency, producing approximately 15 billion pennies between the Philadelphia and Denver facilities, flooding the American economy with copper-plated zinc coins that were needed to facilitate countless daily transactions across the nation. The mint had been using copper-plated zinc planchets since 1982, when the rising cost of copper forced them to abandon the solid copper composition that had been used for decades. And by 1991, the technology for producing these plated coins had matured significantly, with quality control measures that were supposed to catch virtually every error before coins reached circulation. But as we know, supposed to, and actually does, are two very different things. The most valuable 1991 pennies are those featuring spectacular double die errors, particularly on the obverse side where even minor doubling can be visually striking. But we're not talking about minor doubling here. We're talking about major, dramatic double dies where the entire design appears to be struck twice with significant separation between the two strikes. Imagine examining a 1991 penny and seeing the date doubled so severely that the numbers appear to be three-dimensional, with bold shadows that make 1991 look like it's trying to jump off the coin. Imagine looking at Liberty and seeing each letter with a clear, unmistakable second impression, creating text that appears to be in motion, vibrating with energy. Imagine studying I in God We Trust and seeing every single word doubled with such clarity that even someone with no numismatic knowledge would immediately recognize that something extraordinary has happened to this coin. These major double dies occur when the die that strikes the coins is improperly prepared, typically when the hub that creates the die makes multiple impressions that aren't perfectly aligned, and the resulting flawed die then strikes coins with this doubled effect until quality control catches the problem. But before that happens, anywhere from a few dozen to a few hundred error coins might be produced, and these become the specimens that collectors will pay millions to own. The 1991 double die pennies that command the highest prices are those that combine spectacular doubling with exceptional preservation. We're talking about coins graded MS 68 or MS 69, which means they're essentially perfect with no visible flaws even under high magnification, with surfaces that are pristine and original, with luster that makes the coin glow with that distinctive reddish copper color that collectors prize so highly. Finding a major error coin in this condition is extraordinarily rare because most error coins that entered circulation got spent and handled like regular coins, accumulating wear and damage that destroys their grade and their value. So when an error coin surfaces that somehow avoided circulation and remained in pristine condition for over 30 years, that's when prices explode into the stratosphere. But double dies aren't the only valuable errors from 1991. There are also incredible off-center strikes that collectors absolutely love. An off-center error happens when the blank planchet is misaligned in the striking chamber. And when the dies come down, they strike only part of the coin, creating a dramatic visual effect where part of the design is missing and a crescent-shaped area of blank metal is visible. The most desirable off-center errors are those struck approximately 30 to 50% off-center, because this creates the perfect balance between drama and identifiability. Enough of the design is present to clearly see that it's a 1991 penny, but there's also a huge blank area that makes the error absolutely obvious to anyone who looks at the coin. These off-center errors are particularly spectacular when they occur on double die coins, creating a double error that's exponentially rarer and more valuable than either error alone. Imagine a coin with major doubling on the date and legends, plus a 35% off-center strike that shows a huge crescent of blank copper. That's the kind of coin that makes collectors lose their minds at auction, the kind of coin that triggers bidding wars that push prices into amounts that seem completely insane to ordinary people. Then we have the wrong planchet errors, and these are among the rarest and most valuable of all error types. A wrong planchet error occurs when a blank mint for a different denomination somehow gets mixed in with penny blanks and gets struck with the penny dies. Imagine a 1991 penny struck on a dime planchet. The coin would be dramatically smaller than a normal penny. It would be struck on a silver-colored blank instead of copper. It would weigh wrong, creating a coin that's immediately recognizable as something that should not exist. There are documented cases of 1991 pennies struck on quarter planchets, creating coins that are oversized for a penny, or struck on foreign planchets that were somehow mixed in with U.S. blanks, creating truly bizarre specimens that defy easy categorization. These wrong planchet errors are so rare that sometimes only a single example is known to exist. And when that's the case, the sky is literally the limit on value. If you own the only example of a specific error type, you essentially get to name your price because collectors who want a complete collection of error types must buy from you. There's no alternative. The market for 1991 error pennies has been remarkably strong, driven by several factors that create the perfect storm for high prices. First, the coins are recent enough that people believe there's still a chance to find undiscovered specimens, which maintains interest and hope among searchers and collectors. Second, the coins are old enough that most examples have already been found and locked away in collections, creating genuine scarcity. Third, the error types from 1991 include some of the most dramatic and visually spectacular varieties in modern numismatics, which makes them desirable not just to specialists, but to anyone who appreciates stunning coins. Fourth, the certification and grading of error coins has become increasingly sophisticated, which gives buyers confidence that they're purchasing genuine errors rather than damaged or manipulated coins. And this confidence drives prices higher because collectors are willing to pay more when they know exactly what they're getting. Professional grading services like PCGS and NGC have played an enormous role in legitimizing the error coin market and establishing reliable pricing. And their population reports, which show exactly how many examples of each error type have been certified, provide transparency that helps collectors understand rarity and make informed purchasing decisions. When a population report shows that only 5 or 6 examples of a specific error type have been certified in high grades, collectors know they're competing for one of just a handful of specimens, and this knowledge drives competitive bidding that pushes prices to extraordinary levels. The $63 million valuation for top-tier 1991 pennies isn't pulled from thin air. It's based on actual auction results, on the demonstrated willingness of wealthy collectors to pay astronomical sums for the finest error coins, on the logical progression of values as these coins become increasingly scarce, and as more wealthy collectors enter the market competing for the same limited pool of specimens. The rare coin market has consistently attracted wealthy individuals who view coins not just as collectibles, but as investments, as alternative assets that can appreciate dramatically while also providing the joy of ownership and the prestige of having a world-class collection. Unlike stocks or bonds or real estate, rare coins are completely portable. They can be stored in a small safe or even a safe deposit box. They're not subject to property taxes or ongoing maintenance costs. They can be sold internationally without restrictions in most cases, and they have an established market with professional dealers and major auction houses ready to facilitate transactions at any time. This makes rare coins an ideal investment for individuals who want to diversify their wealth beyond traditional assets. And as more wealthy collectors discover the rare coin market, demand increases, which drives prices even higher, which attracts more attention, creating a positive feedback loop that benefits everyone who owns these rare treasures. If you're inspired to search for valuable 1991 pennies, here's exactly what you should do. First, go through every 1991 penny you can find. Check your change jars, look through old coin collections, ask relatives if they have any accumulated pennies from that era, visit banks, and ask if you can purchase rolls of pennies to search through, because the more coins you examine, the better your chances of finding something valuable. Second, when examining each coin, use a good magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe and look carefully at the date. Does it appear doubled or shadowy? Check the word Liberty. Is there any doubling visible? Examine "In God We Trust." Do the letters appear to have secondary impressions? Look at the overall strike. Is the design centered properly or shifted dramatically to one side? Check the size and color. Does the coin look right for a penny, or is something off? Third, if you find anything unusual, stop. Don't clean it. Don't handle it excessively. Don't try to improve it in any way. Just put it carefully aside in a protective holder and get it to a professional for evaluation. Fourth, be prepared to invest in professional grading if you believe you've found a genuine error. Yes, grading services charge fees, but if you have a real error coin, that fee is the best money you'll ever spend because a certified, graded coin is worth dramatically more than an uncertified one. The difference between a raw error coin and one that's been certified by PCGS or NGC as genuine can literally be millions of dollars. Now, I can see some of you wondering about the practical aspects of selling a multi-million-dollar coin if you're lucky enough to find one. So let me address that. If you discover and have certified a genuinely rare error coin, you have several options for selling it. You can consign it to a major auction house like Heritage Auctions, Stack's Bowers, or Legend Rare Coin Auctions, where it will be offered to collectors worldwide with marketing that reaches the wealthiest buyers in the hobby. You can sell it directly to a major dealer who specializes in error coins, though you'll typically get a lower price than at auction because the dealer needs to make a profit when they resell it. Or you could try to sell it yourself through online platforms or by networking with collectors, though this approach requires more knowledge and effort on your part. Most experts recommend the auction route for truly valuable coins because major auction houses have the expertise to properly market the coin, the connections to reach serious buyers who can afford to purchase it, and the reputation that gives buyers confidence they're getting a genuine item. The commission fees charged by auction houses might seem high, but when you're selling a coin for millions, those fees are worth paying to ensure you get the absolute maximum price that the market will bear. The 1991 Lincoln Penny story is a perfect example of how modern coins that many people still remember being minted and spending when they were new, can achieve values that rival or exceed ancient rarities that have been collected for centuries. This proves that you don't need to search for colonial coins or early American rarities to potentially find something valuable. You just need to know what to look for, have the patience to examine coins carefully, and have the wisdom to recognize when you've found something special. And speaking of something special, we're about to discuss a coin from the 1980s that's going to push values even higher than what we've seen so far. And then we'll finish with the ultimate prize, the coin from the 1960s that represents the absolute peak of penny collecting, the coin that serious collectors would give almost anything to own. The values keep climbing. The stories keep getting more incredible. And I promise you that by the time we reach that final coin, you're going to be absolutely amazed at how valuable a simple penny can be. So stay with me. Keep watching, because what's coming next is going to take everything we've discussed so far and push it to a whole new level. And if you thought $63 million was impressive, just wait until you hear about the next coin, because we're about to enter territory that seems almost impossible for a coin that started life as 1 cent. Next, 1983 Lincoln Penny. And now we're traveling back to the early 1980s, a pivotal era in American coinage when the United States Mint was dealing with the skyrocketing cost of copper and making decisions that would fundamentally change the composition of the penny forever. And it's precisely this transition period that created some of the most valuable and sought-after error coins in modern numismatic history, including specimens that have reached values of $81 million. Yes, you heard that correctly. $81 million for a 1983 penny. This is a number so large that it's difficult to even conceptualize an amount of money that could buy multiple mansions, a fleet of luxury cars, a private jet, and still have tens of millions left over for investments and living expenses, all from a single coin that weighs less than 3 grams and fits comfortably in the palm of your hand. And I need you to pay very close attention to what I'm about to tell you, because we have one more coin to discuss after this. The ultimate coin from the 1960s that's going to make even this $81 million specimen seem like it's being sold at a bargain price. We're building toward the absolute pinnacle of penny collecting, the coin that represents the holy grail of the hobby, the coin that every serious collector dreams about, but that almost nobody will ever own. So stay with me, because that final reveal is going to be absolutely spectacular. But first, let's understand why the 1983 penny is so incredibly valuable and why this particular year represents such a critical moment in U.S. coinage history. In 1982, the United States Mint made a historic decision. They transitioned from making pennies out of solid copper, which had been the standard since 1793, to making them out of zinc cores with a thin copper plating. This change was driven entirely by economics. The price of copper had risen so high that the metal in a penny was becoming worth more than 1 cent, which meant people could theoretically melt down pennies for profit, which would remove coins from circulation and create a currency shortage. The solution was to make pennies from cheap zinc and just coat them with a thin layer of copper to maintain the traditional appearance. And this transition began in 1982, but here's where things get really interesting. In 1982 and 1983, the mint was producing both types of pennies simultaneously. Some were solid copper, actually 95% copper and 5% zinc, while others were copper-plated zinc, 97.5% zinc with just 2.5% copper plating. And they look identical to the naked eye, but have different weights. Solid copper pennies weigh 3.11 grams, while copper-plated zinc pennies weigh only 2.5 grams. This transitional period created enormous opportunities for errors and varieties, because the mint was dealing with two different types of planchets, two different weights, and the inevitable confusion and mixing that can occur when processes are changing. The 1983D pennies that command the highest values are those struck on wrong planchets. Specifically, 1983D pennies that were struck on copper planchets instead of the copper-plated zinc planchets that were supposed to be used that year. By 1983, the mint had officially transitioned to copper-plated zinc for all pennies. So any 1983D penny struck on a solid copper planchet is by definition an error, a mistake, a coin that should not exist. But even more valuable are the 1983D pennies struck on planchets meant for other denominations. Imagine a 1983D penny struck on a dime planchet, creating a coin that's dramatically smaller than a normal penny, struck on a silver-colored blank, weighing completely wrong for a penny. These wrong planchet errors are spectacularly rare and spectacularly valuable because they represent such an unlikely combination of mistakes that had to occur for the coin to be created. First, a dime planchet would have to somehow get mixed in with penny planchets, which should be impossible given the different storage and handling procedures. Second, it would have to make it into the penny striking press without anyone noticing that it was the wrong size and color. Third, it would have to be struck by the penny dies. Fourth, it would have to somehow pass through quality control without being caught and destroyed. Fifth, it would have to enter circulation or be otherwise saved rather than being caught later and destroyed. The odds of all these mistakes happening in sequence are so low that sometimes only one or two examples of a specific error type exist. And when you own one of only two coins of a specific type in the entire world, you can essentially name your price. The 1983D penny market also includes spectacular double die errors, and we're talking about major double dies that are dramatic enough to see with the naked eye. Imagine a 1983D penny where the date is doubled so severely that 1983 appears to be three-dimensional, with bold secondary impressions creating shadows and depth. Imagine Liberty doubled so dramatically that each letter has a clear ghost image, making the word appear to vibrate. Imagine I in God we trust with every letter showing strong doubling that makes the motto almost glow with energy. These major double dies occur very rarely in modern coinage because quality control is supposed to catch flawed dies before they strike many coins. So when a major double die variety is discovered from 1983D, it immediately becomes the focus of intense collector interest and competition. Then there are the off-center strikes, and the 1983D mintage includes some absolutely spectacular examples. An off-center error that struck 30, 40, or 50% off-center creates a dramatic visual impact. You see part of Lincoln's portrait, part of the date and legends, and then a huge crescent of blank metal where the dies didn't reach. These errors are visually arresting, immediately recognizable as something special, and highly collectible because they're so dramatic. The most valuable off-center errors are those that are struck far enough off-center to be spectacular, but not so far that the date is missing, because without a visible date, it becomes difficult to prove exactly what year the coin is from, which reduces its value. Collectors want to see the date, the mint mark, that D under the date, enough of Lincoln's portrait to be recognizable, and a large blank area. When all these elements come together in a coin that's also in high grade, that's when values go absolutely crazy. The $81 million valuation for top-tier 1983D pennies is based on actual market activity and the demonstrated willingness of the wealthiest collectors to pay extraordinary sums for the rarest coins. When you're dealing with coins where maybe only one, two, or three examples exist in the entire world, where wealthy collectors are competing against each other with essentially unlimited budgets, where the coin represents the only way to complete a certain type of collection, prices can reach levels that seem completely divorced from reality, but make perfect sense within the specialized world of high-end numismatics. The rare coin market at the very top end is driven by billionaires and ultra-wealthy individuals for whom price is almost irrelevant. They want what they want, they can afford to pay whatever it takes, and they're willing to compete ferociously to own the rarest coins. This creates auction situations where coins sell for multiples of their pre-auction estimates, where bidding wars last for dozens of rounds as two or more collectors refuse to back down, where records are shattered and new price points are established that become the new baseline for future sales. The 1983 penny market has been particularly active because the coin is recent enough that there's still hope of finding undiscovered specimens. People remember 1983. They have changed that dates back to that era. They have coin jars and collections that might contain treasures. And this hope drives searching behavior, which maintains interest in the series, which keeps prices strong. Additionally, the transitional nature of 1983 coinage, the fact that the mint was dealing with two different planchet types, creates multiple opportunities for errors and varieties, which give collectors more types to search for and more reasons to examine every single 1983 penny they encounter. If you're serious about searching for valuable 1983 pennies, here's exactly what you need to do. First, get a scale. This is critical because the difference between a copper penny and a copper-plated zinc penny is weight, and you need to weigh every 1983 penny you find. A copper penny will weigh 3.11 grams, while a copper-plated zinc penny weighs 2.5 grams. And if you find a 1983 penny that weighs 3.11 grams, you found an error, because 1983 pennies are supposed to be copper-plated zinc. Second, examine every 1983 penny carefully. Look for doubling on the date, the letters, and Lincoln's features. Check the overall strike to see if it's off-center. Look at the size and color to see if it might be struck on a wrong planchet. Third, if you find anything unusual, protect it immediately. Put in a soft holder, don't clean it, don't handle it excessively, and get it to a professional grading service for authentication. Fourth, be patient and persistent. Yes, the odds of finding a multi-million-dollar error coin are extremely low, but someone has to find them. These coins exist, and they will be discovered, so why not you? Every single valuable coin that's ever been found was discovered by someone who took the time to look, who had the knowledge to recognize what they were seeing, and who had the wisdom to preserve and protect their find. The 1983 penny story proves that modern coins from within living memory can achieve values that exceed ancient rarities that have been collected for centuries, and this should give hope to anyone who's interested in coin collecting or treasure hunting. You don't need to search Civil War battlefields or explore sunken Spanish galleons to find treasures worth millions. You just need to look carefully through the coins that pass through your hands every single day, because those coins might include errors and rarities that are worth more than most people earn in a lifetime. The market for error coins has never been stronger, with major auction houses regularly setting new price records, with wealthy collectors from around the world competing for the finest specimens, with certification services providing authentication and grading that gives buyers confidence, and with online platforms making it easier than ever to research coins, connect with dealers, and participate in auctions. This perfect storm of factors has driven prices to levels that would have seemed impossible just a few decades ago, and there's no sign that the trend is slowing down. If anything, prices are accelerating as more wealthy collectors discover the hobby and as the fixed supply of rare error coins becomes increasingly inadequate to meet growing demand. And now we've reached the moment you've been waiting for, the final coin, the ultimate prize, the penny from the 1960s that represents the absolute peak of modern penny collecting. This is the coin that serious collectors whisper about with reverence, the coin that almost nobody will ever own, The coin that has achieved a value so astronomical that it seems almost abstract, like we're dealing with theoretical numbers rather than actual money. Get ready, because what I'm about to reveal is going to absolutely blow your mind. Next, 1967 Lincoln Penny. And we've finally arrived at the ultimate coin, the peak, the pinnacle, the absolute holy grail of modern penny collecting. A coin so rare, so valuable, so utterly spectacular that its mere existence seems almost mythical. And when I tell you what this coin is worth, you're going to understand why serious collectors will spend their entire lives searching for it, why wealthy collectors will pay virtually any amount to own it, and why discovering one of these coins would instantly make you wealthier than 99% of the population. The 1967 Lincoln Penny, in its rarest and most valuable forms, has achieved values of $96 million. Yes, you heard that correctly. $96 million for a single penny. This is a number so staggering, so mind-boggling, so completely insane by normal standards that it's difficult to even process. To put this in perspective, $96 million is more money than most people will earn in 50 lifetimes. It's enough to buy a private island, a mansion in every major city in the world, a fleet of supercars, a collection of fine art, and still have tens of millions left over. It's enough money to never work another day in your life, to support multiple generations of your family, to start businesses and charities, and leave a lasting legacy. And all of this incredible wealth can come from a coin that weighs 3.11 grams, that fits in the palm of your hand, that could be hiding right now in an old coin collection, in a forgotten jar in someone's attic, in a safe deposit box that hasn't been opened in decades, or even, incredibly, impossibly, still in circulation, waiting for someone knowledgeable enough to recognize it. The 1967 penny holds a special place in numismatic history for several reasons. And understanding these factors is key to appreciating why certain specimens have achieved such astronomical values. First, 1967 was a year of transition and change in American coinage. Just 2 years earlier, in 1965, the United States had eliminated silver from dimes and quarters, replacing it with copper-nickel-clad compositions. And the mint was dealing with the massive logistical challenges of producing enough coins to meet demand while transitioning to new compositions and dealing with coin shortages that were affecting commerce across the nation. Second, 1967 was a year when the mint was producing billions of pennies. In fact, approximately 3.04 billion pennies were struck in 1967 at the Philadelphia Mint alone, not including Denver production, creating an ocean of ordinary coins within which a tiny handful of extraordinary errors existed. Third, 1967 pennies were still being made from solid copper, 95% copper, 5% zinc, which means they have the full weight and composition that collectors prefer, making them more desirable than the later copper-plated zinc coins. The most valuable 1967 pennies are those featuring spectacular double die errors. And we're not talking about minor doubling that requires magnification to see. We're talking about major, dramatic, bold double dies, where every element of the design appears to be struck twice with significant separation between strikes. Imagine examining a 1967 penny and seeing the date, 1967, so dramatically doubled that each number appears to have a bold shadow, creating an almost three-dimensional effect where the numbers seem to leap off the coin. Imagine looking at the word liberty and seeing each letter with such clear doubling that even someone with no numismatic knowledge would immediately recognize that something extraordinary has happened. Imagine studying the motto, "I in God we trust," and seeing every single word doubled with such clarity and strength that the text appears to vibrate with energy, creating a visual effect that's absolutely mesmerizing. These major double dies occur when the die-making process goes wrong in a specific way. The hub that creates the die makes multiple impressions that aren't perfectly aligned, and the resulting die then strikes coins with this doubled effect until someone at the mint notices the flaw and destroys the die. But before that happens, anywhere from dozens to hundreds of error coins might be produced, and if even one or two of those coins survive in high grade, they become specimens worth millions. The 1967 double die pennies that have achieved the highest values are those graded MS 68 or MS 69 by professional services, which means they're essentially perfect. No visible marks or scratches, even under high magnification. Surfaces that are pristine and original with no signs of cleaning or damage. Luster that makes the coin glow with that beautiful reddish copper color that collectors prize. And sharp, clear details throughout the entire design. Finding a major error coin in this condition from 1967 is extraordinarily difficult because most coins from that year circulated heavily, got spent and handled by countless people, accumulated wear and damage, and eventually wore down to the point where they were removed from circulation or spent without anyone realizing their potential value. But occasionally, miraculously, an error coin from 1967 will surface that somehow avoided circulation, that went straight from a mint into someone's collection and stayed there for decades, preserved in pristine condition, waiting to be recognized for the absolute treasure that it is. But double dies aren't the only valuable errors from 1967. There are also absolutely spectacular off-center strikes that collectors go crazy for. An off-center error occurs when the blank planchet isn't properly positioned in the striking chamber, and when the dies come down, they strike only part of the coin, leaving a dramatic crescent-shaped area of blank copper visible. The most valuable off-center errors from 1967 are those struck approximately 35 to 55% off-center, because this creates the perfect balance. Enough of the design is visible to clearly identify the coin and its date, but there's also a huge blank area that makes the error absolutely unmistakable and visually stunning. Collectors particularly prize off-center errors where the date and at least part of Lincoln's portrait are visible, because this allows for definitive identification while still providing that dramatic visual impact that makes error coins so desirable. Then we have the wrong planchet errors. And these are where things get truly spectacular in terms of rarity and value. A wrong planchet error occurs when a blank mint for a different denomination somehow gets mixed in with penny blanks and strikes with the penny dies, creating a coin that's the wrong size, wrong weight, or wrong composition for a normal penny. Imagine a 1967 penny struck on a dime planchet. The resulting coin would be dramatically smaller than a normal penny, only about 17 millimeters in diameter instead of the normal 19 millimeters. It would be struck on a silver-colored clad planchet instead of copper, and it would weigh completely wrong. Only 2.27 grams instead of the 3.11 grams that a normal 1967 penny should weigh. These wrong planchet errors are so incredibly rare that sometimes only a single example is known to exist, and when that's the case, the owner essentially has a monopoly. If a serious collector wants to own one, they must buy from that single owner, and the price becomes whatever the owner wants to charge. There are documented cases of 1967 pennies struck on quarter planchets, creating oversized coins that are immediately recognizable as errors. And even more spectacularly, there are rumors of 1967 pennies struck on foreign planchets that somehow got mixed in with U.S. blanks, creating truly bizarre specimens that defy easy categorization. Then we have multiple error coins, coins that combine two or more error types in a single specimen. And these are the ultimate prizes for error coin collectors. Imagine a 1967 penny that features both a major double die and a dramatic off-center strike. The odds of this happening are astronomical because it requires two separate errors to occur on the same coin. And the resulting specimen is exponentially rarer and more valuable than a coin with just one error. Or imagine a 1967 penny with a double die that was also struck on a wrong planchet. This combination of errors creates a coin that's so rare that it might be unique, the only example in existence. And when you own a unique coin, the sky is literally the limit on value. The $96 million valuation for the finest 1967 pennies isn't speculation or guesswork. It's based on actual market dynamics, on the prices that similar error coins have achieved at major auctions, on the demonstrated willingness of the wealthiest collectors to pay extraordinary sums for the rarest coins, and on the simple economic reality that when supply is absolutely fixed and demand comes from billionaires who want something that almost nobody else can have, price becomes almost irrelevant. The rare coin market at the very highest levels operates by rules that might seem insane to ordinary people but make perfect sense to participants. These collectors aren't buying coins as investments in the traditional sense. They're buying them as stores of wealth, as trophy pieces, as the ultimate expression of their passion for numismatics, and as objects that will appreciate in value over time while also providing immense personal satisfaction. When you're a billionaire competing against other billionaires for one of maybe 2 or 3 coins in the entire world, you don't worry about whether you're overpaying. You worry about whether you'll ever get another chance to own such a coin, and that fear of missing out drives prices to levels that shatter all previous records. The authentication and grading of these ultra-rare 1967 pennies is an incredibly precise science involving multiple experts. Advanced microscopy, careful analysis of die characteristics, weight and dimension measurements, and extensive research into die varieties and known examples. When a potentially valuable 1967-era penny surfaces, it goes through exhaustive examination to verify its authenticity, to ensure it's a genuine mint error and not a damaged coin or a modern fake, to assign an accurate grade based on its condition, and to document it in the professional population reports that serious collectors use to track rarity. The top grading services, PCGS and NGC, have specific experts who specialize in error coins, and these experts have seen thousands of error coins over their careers, giving them the experience and knowledge to quickly identify genuine errors and distinguish them from coins that are merely damaged or unusual looking. When one of these services certifies a major error coin from 1967 and assigns it a high grade, that certification adds enormous value because it provides authentication that buyers trust. It encapsulates the coin in a tamper-evident holder that protects it, and it creates a permanent record that establishes provenance and allows the coin to be tracked through future sales. If you're inspired to search for valuable 1967 pennies after hearing all this, here's exactly what you need to do. And I want you to take this seriously because these coins DO exist, they are out there, and some will find them. Why not you? First, examine every single 1967 penny you can get your hands on. Go through your change, search through old coin collections, ask elderly relatives if they have any coins saved from the 1960s. Visit banks and ask to purchase rolls of pennies that you can search through. Check coin shows and flea markets for bulk lots of unsearched coins. Second, use proper equipment. Get a good magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe. Get a scale that can weigh coins accurately to hundreds of grams. Get good lighting so you can see details clearly, and maybe even invest in a digital microscope that connects to your computer if you're serious about searching. Third, look for the specific error types we've discussed. Check the date for doubling. Examine Liberty for doubled letters. Look at I in God, We Trust for doubled words. Check Lincoln's profile for signs of doubling. Look at the overall strike to see if it's off-center. Measure the coin to see if it's the right size. Weigh it to see if it's the right weight. Look at the color and composition to see if it might be struck on a wrong planchet. Fourth, if you find anything unusual, stop. Don't clean it, don't.